It's the failures that make us stronger.
My name is Merrill Dubrow, CEO of Mark Research. I'm a 35-year veteran of the Research and Insights community and the host of our podcast, On the Mark. On the Mark is focusing on executives and thought leaders in the world sharing their insights, strategy, and personal experiences. I promise this podcast will be filled with tough, pointed questions with real, insightful, and emotional answers. Today's guest is Lenny Murphy, Green Book thought leader, partner in G2 Advisors, director at Veriglyph, advisory board member, investor, and change agent. Lenny, welcome to the On the Mark podcast.
Thank you, Merrill. It's an honor to be here.
You know, I'll tell you what, I needed to pause like 9 times with your intro. There's like, you have so many titles here, Lenny, right? It's unbelievable. Hey, let's start with a fun question. We've known each other a long time. I would argue that if we were on Family Feud and the question from Steve Harvey was, name the top 7 most well-known people in the insight research industry, I have a feeling that you not only make the list, Lenny, you might be number 1 or 2, right?
Well, it's just because I spam everybody. So,
well, I don't know about that, but talk to me a little bit about that, right? Talk to me a little bit about how did that happen? Was that a mission? Because seriously, a day doesn't go by where I don't see you posting something where your name isn't out there, whether it's connected to the Grit Report, one of these advisory board positions that you have. Was that a mission that you had? Because you are really well known. You know that, right?
Yeah, no, it was not. It was not a mission, and you know, because we have known each other a long time. You may remember when Rockhopper Research, my full service agency, when we took it on the chin during the downturn. You know, I was left kind of scratching my head and going, well, what the hell do I do now? Right? My company had failed. Quite simply. And remember, I was actually going to come and interview with you.
Yep.
So we had plans a long time ago.
Yep.
So I was just trying to figure out, well, what is the next step in a very pragmatic way. And I had known the folks at Green Book for a long time, and was chatting with the managing director, Lukash, and he said, you know, why don't you just do some consulting for us for a little bit to figure out what you're going to do. It was a lifeline, quite simply, right? It was a way to feed my family while I figured out what was happening. And, you know, that was the beginning of the social media era, et cetera, et cetera. And here I was in a unique position to be looking at what went wrong in the business model of running a traditional full-service research agency, and looking at everything going on around us, the advent of social media, the advent of mobile, emerging technologies. And, you know, the consulting strategy I came up with for Green Book was based on producing content. And I was the one who had to produce the content, right? And all I could do is write about what I knew about, which was kind of reverse engineering the failure of my company, quite simply. And thinking now, what does the future look like for the industry as a whole? And I guess it just hit a nerve. So, and I was just the right person at the right time to be able to tackle that I think a lot of folks were trying to get a handle on as well. And through that, it just grew and grew. Out of that, we decided that there were opportunities to create more content channels and events, and you know, the Grit Report, and then people started asking me to consult, and they started asking me to advise, and so I just found myself, without a plan, becoming a nexus, I guess, for lack of a better term, of lots of information flowing in, and working within an organization that was based on taking that information and putting it back out to try and benefit the industry as a whole. And lucky enough that people found my prattling interesting, I guess. So 10 years later, and it has been 10 years, we've just built on that and have found just a really interesting niche of having this point of view on what the future of the industry looks like, and constantly reinforcing that and sending it out. And, it was not the intention to build a brand around me specifically, and I'm actually still pretty uncomfortable with it, but it just worked out that way.
Yeah, interesting. There are so many takeaways, and there's so many questions that I could ask after what you just said. But I'm going to go in a little bit different direction, because one of the skills that I think is so important to be successful in today's business environment is self-awareness. And for you to say that openly to thousands of people who are going to listen to this podcast, some who know you and some don't, openly talk about, hey, look, I took it on the chin at Rockhopper, your words, that was a failure. To openly talk about that, have you always been like that, and really had amazing self-awareness, or did that kind of, did you get that over time as you got more and more mature?
By inclination, I'm fairly introspective. Now, whether I have clarity on myself or not, that's a whole other question. but certainly over time, I think I've gotten better at taking the honest appraisal of who I am and what I do, and that's a bit of a defining principle in my life, to try not to bullshit myself. Now, I may bullshit other people, right? Meryl, you and I are kind of birds of a feather, I think, in that respect, but but not in a bad way,
yeah.
Right? So, I think when we go through difficult experiences, certainly some are more challenging to talk about publicly than others, but, this is one that I think a lot of entrepreneurs experience, right? We all fail at some point. It's the failures that make us stronger. So if I can talk about that and help some other folks to realize that, it's not the end of the world, it's a learning experience, and, neat things can happen as a result of that, I'm not uncomfortable sharing that at all.
That's great. No, I really appreciate that. All right, I'm going to ask you a question, but it's going to have a caveat, because I know that you advise so many companies. I know that you're on so many boards. But what I'd love to know is, what technology company that you don't advise, that you're not connected to, impresses you the most today in the insights world?
That's a good question. I certainly kick myself that I didn't get hooked up to Qualtrics early on. But that's probably greed as much as anything else. But
again, hey, by the way, Lenny, again, self-awareness, right?
Right.
That's great.
I do think if you look at, we'll talk about that as an example, that's a company that was very ambitious in thinking about how technology could become a center point within an organization, to become the hub of data to drive greater value for their customers, and for their customers to drive greater value for their customers. And everything they've done has been kind of aligned to that idea of expanding the hub, if you will, of data and centralizing that. And that was the core of the SAP deal, right? There was the connection between the business intelligence data in SAP and the CX data in Qualtrics. So I think that what they've done is really interesting and kind of spot on. They've bitten off an awful lot, and we'll see how all that goes. But they were smart folks all the way down the road, right? They made some incredibly smart decisions, and have profound respect for them. But at the same time, SurveyMonkey's going down a similar path. I mean, those, maybe a better way to say it, Meryl, is I continually be impressed by companies with founders who came from outside of the research industry and were able to think about the challenges around data and insights from a business and technology perspective rather than a research perspective. Right? I think often we get kind of myopic in thinking about research. And those founders have done things in a different way and are taking more risks than we tend to see in companies that come out of the research space organically.
Interesting. That's great. I really appreciate that. I know that it's hard, because if I didn't put the caveat that you're not connected to today, you could give me a list of 7 or 10 in a third of a second. So we took a number of them out of that mix that you could say. So I appreciate your honesty on that. Let's talk a little bit about IAX. You and I have a lot of things in common, actually. And one is that we've both built brands for associations, right? I mean, IIEX is huge. Steve Schlesinger and myself, 14 years ago, started the CEO Summit and have expanded that brand and did 3 different summits last year, and we'll have the same this year. 2 of them out of outside the United States. With IIEX, can you talk a little bit about that building of the brand? Did you see back then, 9, 10 years ago, whatever it was, what it could become? And how did you do that? And not only that, how proud are you of that and what you've accomplished? Because I think it's amazing.
Oh, well, thanks. Again, a lot of it's happy accidents, right? We knew that there was a opportunity for a different perspective, one focused around innovation and the future and change in all of our content. We saw the opportunity to create an event series that brought those people together as well. And we were lucky enough to find that a lot of folks were interested in that. So, when we think about the industry itself, we see ourselves as the stalking horse. Our own slogan is, it happens here first, which may be slightly overinflated, but I think overall that's true. We've been really lucky to introduce the industry to a lot of really cool things, a lot of really cool companies. And a piece of that was also focusing on startups, and that was baked into the DNA by design, right? We started the Insight Innovation Competition, which is a startup competition, kind of like Shark Tank, to give early-stage companies a chance to be connected into the industry and to be exposed to new things and new potential partners. And that's worked really well. So if we look at the track record of, I think 20 now, startups that have won the competition through IAX, many of them have gone on to great success. And probably the crown jewel at this point is Zappy, right? That started as just an idea presented at the competition at the very first IAX in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. And now they've become a verb in our industry, right? So we talk about, being Zappy-centric, and I know that team really well, too. So when I think about what we're proud of, are we proud that we've grown now to the largest event in North America? Yeah, of course we are, right? Everybody likes bragging rights. But more importantly, what I'm proud of is that we continue to double down on the fundamental piece of connecting supply and demand and focusing on innovation and giving startups and emerging technologies a place to connect into the industry and prosper. And, that role in the ecosystem is something that no one else was doing, and there's still no one else doing it the way that we have. And I don't mean that as a bragging thing. It's just we're in a unique position to be able to do those things, and it's made a difference. It's made a difference in the industry. It's made a difference in people's lives. There's a lot of jobs created. There's wealth created. That makes me happy at night.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. As I've gotten older, Lenny, giving something back, being relevant in the industry, helping move careers forward, mentoring younger professionals, the next generation of superstars, really means a great deal to me. So it's really, really nice to hear that you feel the same way. That's awesome. Hey, let's play Finish This Sentence, Lenny. You ready?
Sure.
Clients of today need to understand blank. Clients of today need to understand blank. What is the blank? Fill in that blank.
Boy, there's lots of places that could go.
Well, I'm going to give you free. We haven't rehearsed this. I don't know what I'm asking. You don't know what I'm asking either.
Yeah.
So let's go there.
The limits of technology.
Okay.
Technology inherently addresses process issues, right? So we've heard for years that cheaper, faster, better, and we know empirically and quantitatively that is what clients are looking for. Absolutely. But that better piece, that's nebulous. Cheaper and faster we can do all day long, and that is what technology does. But better is something that is far more difficult to figure out. And each client is going to define it differently. So for some clients, better is cheaper and faster. For some clients, it is better quality of data. For some, it is better quality of insights. For some, it's more strategic. For some, it's more tactical. But that better piece, in my opinion, usually involves humans. It doesn't involve the technology itself. Now, there may come a day that our robot overlords, can achieve that, and we're not part of the equation, but we are not there yet. So, so if clients are looking for better, as in more insight that drives business decision making and moves the needle within their organization, cheap and fast is not the end all be all. Humans have to become involved to help translate those insights into activation, and that's going to take time and it takes money.
Yeah, no, I think there's some good stuff in there. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hey, we both know that tens of thousands of people are gonna read this year's Grit Report, but let's assume a few of them only have 5 or 10 minutes. What are the 2 top takeaways that you would like people to get when they read the Grit Report this year? The 2 top takeaways.
Well, so there's 2 versions of the Grit Report. The one is focused on the process of research, and that's the one that we just released. And then the next version, the next wave that we will release in June at this point is the schedule, is more of the macro trends and drivers of the industry itself. So think about the one that we just released, that is really kind of the nuts and bolts. Hell, it's what I just said. Cheaper, faster, better is what clients are looking for, period.
Okay.
We have to think about the methodologies and the tools that we use and how they fit into that matrix. And there's a lot of data in that report to help guide that decision-making based upon the type of organization you are. Because the answer to that is different if you are a consultancy versus a technology company. It's different if you're a full-service company versus a field service company. And because clients have different expectations of each of those segments. So Grit gives that guidance, based upon what your organization is from the supplier side. Who are the right clients and what are they looking for, and where should you be prioritizing your development from a tool and methodology standpoint. That's important. The next one will focus a whole lot more on kind of the macro strategic things. How do you stand out in the crowd? What is the messaging that's going to resonate? How do you achieve fame and fortune from a brand standpoint? What are clients looking for that no one is meeting yet? What's the next big thing? That will happen in the next report.
Okay, good. Thank you. When you hear the words AI, and we both know that might be the word of 2019 and 20 in terms of the most used word, AI, that everybody is scurrying around trying to figure that out. What are the first words that come to mind when you hear the words AI?
Fear.
Okay. All right.
Followed by hope.
Is it then followed by opportunity?
And followed by opportunity. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the technology inherently is a good thing, right? It can create efficiencies. It can make the world better. I just saw the other day that there's that an AI algorithm had found a new antibiotic that no one had discovered yet, right? Those type of things are really cool, right? The technology can do things that we just can't do efficiently. So that's exciting. Now, like any tool, if we don't use it right, then there could be consequences. That may, in our world, that may be as simple as it's bad insights, right, or not thorough enough insights. So I think we have to be cautious that we use the tool appropriately to be able to create the efficiencies that we need, to increase speed, to decrease costs, to expand knowledge, while recognizing again that a human needs to kind of oversee that to make sure that we're not just becoming so dependent on the technology that we're forgetting how to think and make good decisions ourselves.
That's great. And I think that's accurate. I mean, I think there's so much talking about AI and what it's going to do. And I'm very interested to see where it goes and how long it takes, right? Because traditionally the insights community doesn't move as fast as we all might like. And to understand what the deliverable is, to understand the use, to understand how to integrate that within our clients' organizations, I think is going to be really interesting and could take a little while. Lenny, I know a lot of people, and I want to end with this. You've accomplished so much. I mean, when you think about all the boards you're on, when you think about all the companies that you've led, you've started conferences, you've been a keynote presenter, you talk, your voice is heard. What are you most proud of that you've accomplished in the insights industry over the last 30 years or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think I already said it, it's helping people. So we'll go back to when Rockhopper tanked. Biggest impact for me was that I had let my team down, right? I had 20 employees, and the economy was in the toilet, and everybody was scared. I ran it as long as I could just to keep people fed until I couldn't do it anymore, right? We went from 3.5 million before the recession to less than 1 million post-recession, right, with the same team, right, trying to maintain the same team. And so I felt that I failed them,
Yeah.
And that was really hard emotionally. So that just wasn't who I saw myself as. I'm a dad. I'm a provider. I do these things to take care of people because that's who I am as a person. And my business was a reflection of that. So at a very personal level, that was hard. The thing that I'm proud of is that I think I've been able to help more people in a different way than I ever was able to just running a research company. That makes me happy. My kids ask me, Daddy, what do you do? And like I said, I've got all these titles and all this crap, and it's like, you know what? I help people. That's my job. My job is to help people in everything that I do. And that sounds, I'm not trying to be Saint Lenny or anything, but for me, that was important. I've done it. And when I go to my just rewards, whatever it is, I hope that weighs on the scales, that I help more people than I hurt.
I think that there's no question that you've done that. And you heard it here first, people. All the listeners, Lenny Murphy, who wants and does and continues to help people. Thanks again for listening to Lenny Murphy. This is the On the Mark podcast. My name is Merrill Dubrow. Have a great day.